this was all circulating around the base, that a giant had been killed, but no one was supposed to talk about it.
I saw 3 long, bony fingers reach up underneath the door, curl up to grab it, and then disappear.
When he came over to me, dude, he slithered over to me.
And this giant comes out of the cave, and they're all frozen. And he starts running and firing at this giant. Well, the giant moves. He's got a spear in one hand, and he's running really fast and spears Dan and holds him up like this. Somebody yells, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. They basically decapitate him.
Got closer. When he got about 15 yards away from me, I raised that 12 gauge and I blowed his head off.
I feel something pulling at my leg, and I look over and there are 2 small gray entities pulling at me. And they're literally, I'm getting pulled off the bed.
I reached my hand into this bush and I touched air. Couldn't breathe and I couldn't move because I know I'm seeing a monster.
Yep. Welcome to the show, everybody. You're listening to The Confessionals. I am your host, Tony Merle. Thank you for being here. If you've had an encounter or a story you'd like to share with me on the show, go ahead and shoot me an email. My email address is theconfessionals@theconfessionalspodcast.com. That's theconfessionals@theconfessionalspodcast.com. Or go to the website, theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the contact section, and you can reach me that way as well. Either way works for me, just get a hold of me. And if you want more of the show on a weekly basis, every Thursday, we release a bonus extra episode for the members only on the website. So if that interests you, go to the website, theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the join button, and become a member today. And I want to remind everybody, because I'm very bad at doing this, that we do have a text message community line sitting there waiting for you to join. This is a great way for you to always be up to date with what's going on with the Confessionals, especially as social media continues to shadow ban this show and other shows and removing people off of their platforms. You will never skip a beat if you're always connected to us through either the newsletter, which is free to sign up for on theconfessionalspodcast.com, or join the text message community called First in Line. All you have to do is text the word YUP, Y-U-P, to 844-215-0819. That's 844-215-0819. It is free for you to join, and you'll always be connected to me then. When I have something to tell everybody that's important, you'll be the first to know on First in Line. Now, this week we have a great show coming up. We have Merle coming on the show, and Merle's an interesting guy because he actually is a fellow trucker like myself, and he contacted me and told me he had some experiences with an underground military base in Pennsylvania, but that's all he would tell me over email. And so when I called him, I had no idea what we were going to get into, but we actually got into an underground military base that I knew about, and we had a good conversation about him working in there as a truck driver. It was a very interesting conversation. Then after that, he talks to me about some things that he has seen in the sky that has confirmed some things that I have told you I've seen in the sky, and we're going to get into it right now. All right, today we got a great guest coming on the show. Merle, how you doing, man?
Good. How about yourself, Tony?
I'm doing good, man. So you're a fellow Pennsylvanian, yeah?
Yes, I am. I live about in a town called New Bloomfield. It's about 30 miles north of Harrisburg.
Okay, 30. You said 30 miles north?
Yeah. Okay. Northwest, yep.
Gotcha. So that's from where you're at to Williamsport, where the Little League World Series is. It's probably, what, an hour drive?
Yeah, exactly. Hour and 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
From South Williamsport, yep.
Yeah.
I go up there every year.
Oh, do you? I mean, it's really the only time that you're going to have Williamsport, Pennsylvania, be on a national, global spotlight, right? So, I mean, it's so funny that small little area gets so much attention on ESPN and stuff every year. But I bet it's good for the economy, so good for them. But
it is.
So listen, Merle, you have some different experiences here. We're going to talk about some paranormal stuff later, but what we want to start off with is the deep underground military bases, also known as d.u.m.b.s, in Pennsylvania. Now, before you get going on anything that you've experienced, I want to let the audience know that when you emailed us, you told us that, you have these experiences, but you didn't get into details and you don't want to get into details on the email. You wanted to do this, over for the recording itself. And so I understand that, but I want to let people know that what you're going to tell us and stuff is something that I have no idea where this is going, but the fact that we're going to be talking about deep underground military bases, I am always down for that. I've talked about it on the show before as far as my interest in these things, especially in Pennsylvania, and I'm just interested to hear what you have to say. So what is your knowledge? What is your experience with these things, man?
Okay, well, to start off with, I was working for a trucking company, a national known truck company. Can I say who it was?
Oh, for sure.
Old Dominion Freight Line.
Okay, LTL.
And I worked for them for about 3 years before this happened. I was basically summoned to my boss's office one day, and we went into a conference room. There was two guys sitting across from me, and they didn't ask me. They told me. They said, "You're going to be doing this run starting next Monday." They said, "This is your route." They read me everything. They said, "This is how you go down. If you have any issues, this is the number you call. This is the contact that you get a hold of. Do this immediately. Don't stop. Don't do nothing." And they knew more about me than I knew about them. And I didn't understand this at the time, and I didn't understand what I was getting myself into either. I didn't know that. And the place I was going to was called, by two different names. It was either Raven Rock or Site R.
Oh my gosh. All right. Before you go any further, my friend, you and I talked before we started recording, and I told you about two other people that contacted me about this location. It was Raven Rock and it was Site R. They both referred to it as Site R, and they both worked inside. And one of the guys actually works in the Pentagon and was, I guess, operating somewhere in Site R during 9/11.
Five levels below the ground.
I'm telling you, man, I had a feeling you were going to say this. I got chills. I'm excited. Go for it, brother.
Okay. Now, when I didn't have much of an option to agree to it. They told me what I was doing, and as in the job trucking industry, you just do as you're told. I didn't understand what I was getting myself into. Like I said before, I got there. Okay, I had to pull into a it was like a garage, and it had a concrete billabong to where I couldn't just drive through. That billabong would stop me. I got out. Now this happened every time that I went in there. Okay, I would get out. I would pop my hood. I'd open up all my doors. I never opened up the trailer door. I never knew. For 4 years, I never knew what I was hauling in there. Never seen it. Nothing. Okay. I was not allowed to take a radio in, a CB, cell phone, no electronics, no GPS, no nothing. I had to leave that all outside if I even carried it. Now, when I got there, they would do the mirrors underneath the trailer and everything, and then they'd come by with wipes, and they would take like a rag and they'd wipe my truck in certain areas. I don't know what they're looking for. But that was the initial process. Once they did the inspection of my truck, I'd have an armed guard. He had a Mac 4, I guess that's what they call it, an M4, and a 9mm, armed. Now he was sitting next to me in the passenger seat. We had an MP. Actually, it was Pentagon Police, Capitol Police. He would escort us down to the door. The door would open. It was a I don't know what kind of. I think it might have been like steel or metal, or it may have been lead, but it was about 1.5 feet thick. And I backed into this tunnel, into a mountain, and I get back about 30 feet. No, probably about 50 feet, about the length of the truck, and it would open up to a 2-bay loading dock, and I could hit one of those docks. I was inside the mountain. And when that door shut for the first time, the guy, my armed guard, looked at me and said, "You're a lucky man." I said, "Well, why am I a lucky man?" He goes, "Because if the shit goes down right now, you're the one that's going to live." I said, "Really?" I said, yeah, I didn't ask no questions because I was a little intimidated at first. Okay, because I'm backing into a mountain and I know it's a military base. And he said, "Come with me." Well, we walked down the hall. We went to the cafeteria. This was every day that we did this. And in the cafeteria, there was like a little lounge area where you can watch TV and things. And that's where we would hang out at. I was there all day. I was there 8 hours all day. Okay. And when I was walking down for the first time, I'd seen this. It was like a fish pond. Okay. There was water running into it, and there was fish in it and stuff. And I didn't understand what that was, but here they explained to me it was called aquaponics. And back then I didn't have, this was, now you got to realize, Tony, this was like 12 years ago, 15 years ago that this happened. Aquaponics was not even on the charts at the time. That's where fish fertilize plants and they just filter the water down through. It's a sand-based filtration for the plants, and the fish poop would fertilize the plants, and that's how they grow their vegetables. Wow. inside the facility there. And they would feed the fish, and they were all like tapula. There was thousands of fish in this pond, thousands of them. And I asked questions about it after a couple of weeks. I was like, "So what's this irrigation system you got going on here?" Well, here it was a mountain stream water. It was underground stream that flowed into the mountain, and they just channeled it right into this pond area, and they would grow their own vegetables in there and everything. And now, if you were inside this base, you really wouldn't be able to tell that you were outside or inside. You'd almost feel like you were just inside a regular building, because it wasn't like, even though we were inside a mountain, everything was drywalled up, or everything had a hard wall to it. You couldn't really tell what, if you were out just in a regular building. It looked like you were in a regular building.
So it didn't have like a dungeon feel to it.
Exactly. It was very, very open. Now, Site R, you gotta for your listeners, Site R is right on the other side, just north of Camp David. When the president flies into Camp David, he's at Site R. He's on the opposite. Site R is what protects Camp David from the north. Okay, so that's the military base, and later to find out, five layers below ground level is the Little Pentagon, they call it. People think during 9/11, that Dick Cheney was below the White House. No, Dick Cheney was in Site R, because it's only a 40-minute ride by helicopter from Washington, D.C.
So this Little Pentagon, are we talking about literally a Pentagon-shaped structure inside Site R?
No.
Okay.
No, the Little Pentagon is the war room. Like you would, when Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, when they did the raid on Saddam Hussein, or not Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
You remember that room that they were in? That's basically what a war room would look like.
Gotcha.
But there was also like computers and stuff. Everything that you would, to where the military, like the special forces, could communicate back to these people out in the field. So no, I was never in that place. I was told. Now my contact when we got inside the building was a gentleman. His name was Thom, and
Hold on a second. Did you say thong as in like underwear thong?
no, Thom, like Tom, but with an H.
I got you. Okay.
Thom.
I thought you said thong. I was like, okay,
No.
somebody drew the short straw.
No, but this guy here, now this cat here was a strange dude. Okay, he was like 6'8". He probably weighed about 170 pounds, and he looked like he lived underground. He could walk through walls, man. He was that white. Okay, he had no pigmentation to his skin at all, man. None. he was white. Okay, and I made the mistake of calling him Tom, and he was very straightforward. He goes, "My name is Thom." Right, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, okay, Thom." I was like, "Sorry," And here I asked him later on, about a year into our relationship. I said, "Is Thom like a Swedish name?" And he was like, he just like, like blew it off. I guess he was like, "Yeah, but he just like blew it off." And I was just trying to get the origin of this guy. He was very. He was very nice. And what was so strange about Thom was he would always come down every day, and he would sit with us in the break room. We were in the lunchroom. You could eat whatever you want, no charge. They had like 4 or 5 different meals set up for you if you wanted to. You could have a salad bar, whatever. It was a nice, it was a nice facility. But Thom would come down, and he would stand there, and he'd talk to us. And he always had a bottle of water with him, okay? But it was always an unopened bottle of water, and he would talk with it. You know what I mean by that? He would when he talked, he would point it. It was his pointer. And it was never open, this bottle. And he would stand there and talk for 2 or 3 hours. And he would never open this bottle of water. And I always thought that was a little strange. Okay, and nothing really. That I don't consider that strange. It was just that it was just something that he did. That it was part of his nature. He always had this bottle of water with him. Well, the one day I showed up and I couldn't call off. They didn't accept that. I had to go to work. Well, I showed up to work the one day, and I was sick. And I was really sick. And I got out of my truck, and my armed guard, I said, wait a second. I said, I got to go over. And I went over, and I threw up. He said, "Oh, you ain't feeling good." I said, "No, man." I said, I really ain't feeling good. And I went in. He said, "Go in there on the couch and lay down, do whatever." So I went in, and I was like, oh, I was just wiped out. Well, Thom came down, and he had this chicken broth with him. Okay, he said, "Here," he goes, "I heard you ain't feeling good. Here's some chicken broth." Okay, and I drank his chicken broth, and Tony, within a matter of 5 minutes, I was sleeping. Okay, I woke up like 4 or 5 hours later. I had a blanket over me and a pillow, and I was stretched out on this sofa. I woke up, I felt 1,000 times better. Matter of fact, this was a Tuesday. I went home, and I didn't go to bed until Friday night. You heard me correctly.
Wow! So
I didn't go to bed until Friday night.
So we're talking about you stayed up for days.
That's how good I felt. Huh?
You stayed up for days.
Yeah. That's how good I felt.
Wow.
I went home. Now this happened on a Tuesday. Okay. I went home and my wife said, "Oh, you're feeling better." I said, "I feel great." I said, "I feel fantastic." And I just stayed up all night watching TV or playing video games, And I went to work the next day. Now, I didn't go down there every day. I went down on Monday, and then on Tuesday I get down to Aberdeen Improvement Grounds and take down an empty trailer and pick up a loaded one. Okay, and then I come back. I get down there on Wednesday, and then Wednesday I get back. I take my empty trailer down Thursday, pick up a loaded one, come back, and then deliver one on Friday. This was my routine every week for 4 years. Now, on Friday, they had another driver bring my trailer up for Monday. It was waiting for me when I got back to the yard on Friday. I would hook up to it, and I'd take it over to the mechanic shop, and I'd park it in the shop all weekend. And then Monday, I'd head down. It was just a repeat cycle. Now, another strange thing that happened, and this is what really, really, really freaked me out. Just one part of it. My son, at the time he was about 7. He was about 6 or 7, and he was into wrestling. And right on the other side of Jack's Mountain is a town called Waynesboro. Waynesboro had a youth elementary wrestling tournament, and I was one of the coaches for my son's team. Well, I went down there, and lo and behold, there's Thom standing across from the mat from me, right? My son was wrestling, and I was more involved with him wrestling. And then his match got over with, and I was just standing there waiting for him to come back over. And I had my arms crossed, and I just took my hand and waved at Thom, right, to acknowledge him. That's all I did was try to acknowledge him. And like I said, he had this bottle of water in his hand, and he kind of looked away from me, and I guess he realized, I don't know why he did this, but he glanced back at me real quick with a dead cold stare. I mean, it was like, and Tony, this is the only time that I got really, really, really freaked out. When he was standing there, he looked like a reptilian.
Oh, here we go. See, dude. Oh man. Talk to me.
I swear to God, he looked like a praying mantis. When he turned away from me, okay. Did you ever see a praying mantis's head?
Yeah.
It slopes down and it goes out to like a little bit of a like a little bit of a snout and comes back in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's how his face looked when he turned sideways, and then he glanced back at me, and he gave me a cold, dead stare right at me, and I was like, "Oh my God," and my wife even noticed it. And on the way home, I didn't say nothing to my wife. I just blew it off. I was like really freaked out about it because it was just the way he looked at me. You know what I mean? I wasn't expecting that reaction from him. I was expecting like a wave or a nod of the head or something like that, right? Well, on the way home, my wife says, "Who was that tall guy that you waved at?" I said, "That was Thom from Raven Rock." I said I wasn't expecting his reaction to me that way. I was expecting, him to come over and say hi or just an acknowledgement of. He goes, he was really, really, really icy to you, and I was like, yeah. I said I wasn't expecting that, man. Right, and I didn't discuss much more with her because I was told not to discuss anything that I saw inside there, any people I met, anything. I went in there on Monday. Now, this was Saturday. I went in on Monday, and Thom read me the riot act. Okay? And he said, if you ever see me in public again, don't you ever acknowledge me. He goes, ever. I said, well, I really didn't acknowledge you. I said, I just, waved at you. And we went back and forth for a couple minutes. I wasn't trying to be argumentative with him, but I was just trying to, to stand my ground with him. And then he was leaving. He was going to leave. He was about ready to leave the lounge area. And he turned around and he pointed his bottle of water at me. And he said, and don't you ever discuss me with your wife again.
Wow.
And I was like, wait a second. Wait a second. We were in Shippensburg when I was telling her about you, man. I didn't say that to him. I'm thinking this. I didn't say nothing to him about discussing him with my wife. But he knew that I told my wife. I don't know how he knew. But that's the only strange encounter I had with anybody there at Raven Rock. But like an hour later, he came back like nothing happened. And I'm telling you, Tony, as God is my witness, when he looked back at me, I was looking at a human praying mantis. And it freaked me out to the point where I was like, okay, I got it. I got to get my car. I got to get my life in order, man. You know what I mean? I was like, this ain't cool, and I was dealing with this guy for 3 years and I never noticed these features on him before. You know what I mean? You can look at a person for 3 years and they look normal. And then the one time that you offend them, his whole shape of his body changes.
Yeah, it's almost like there was a alien praying mantis that was wearing a Thom suit, like the movie Men in Black.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you I forgot to mention this when I was describing his head. He when he turned and looked at me, his right elbow cocked back, like almost like how a praying mantis would be standing there looking at you, like you know how they have like their one leg cocked back, and it's like at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah, was it like sticking out to the side, or was it cocked back like to behind him?
Behind him.
Okay.
When I was looking at him, I was looking at a praying mantis, a 6'8" praying mantis. Wow. That's all I can describe it as. But he was never threatening in any way, shape, or form to me, except for that one encounter in the lounge when he told me, don't you ever acknowledge me ever again outside. This is, he went on about the spew of this site is a very top secret installation. I said, well, everybody and their brother knows about it, that lives in this area, man. And that was my defense to him. I was like, well, everybody knows you guys are here. And he goes, well, people don't know who works in here. Because I guess a lot of them come from D.C. and, I don't think they hire a lot of locals down in that area.
No,
they
don't.
But other than that, I mean, like I've seen the control room and stuff. Like I only went down 2 levels, and the second level was just like office buildings, like like they had like the partition walls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's people working at their computers and stuff like that. That's and it just looked like a regular office building. It's. If it would have windows, you could look outside and see the cars going by and stuff, but it didn't have no windows.
Hold on a second. Are you saying there was windows you could see cars outside?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was almost like an office to where if it did have windows,
gotcha.
You could You know, it looked very normal. You know, it was, and there was a lot of people that worked in there, but I didn't see no cars or any, you know, I don't know how they, you know, they must, I don't know how they got there, you know, because there was, down at the second level, there was probably 50, 60 people working there, you know, in an office environment. And up top, you had all your logistics. You know, you had your shipping clerk, and you had your forklifts, and you had your cooks and your dishwashers, and your, you know, it looked like business as usual. You know, on the first level. On the second level, it was, you know, the office building. But they had like the maintenance man. He would come by, and you know, he would be cleaning out the fish filters and stuff like that, and, you know, and taking the garbage out. You know, that it was a very normal. It looked very normal, but you're inside a mountain behind a foot and a half door.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. I mean, when it comes to Raven Rock and the people that work there, I've thought about this before. I've looked at Raven Rock a ton on Google Images and stuff, the whole area, and I've talked to some people about this location, and one thing that I'm pretty sure happens is they bus people in, I think. And I also think that people that work there at least the people that are there on a very permanent basis and have, you know, real, maybe not the second level people, but maybe people below that. I think that they kind of live there and they are there most of the time. You know, I don't think it's like one of those jobs where you go home at night, but I think that they are busing people in because there is not a lot of parking. And you know that, I mean, if you've been there and stuff, you know that like driving up that road and stuff, this is not like a, hey, we're right off the expressway kind of place. Like you're driving through the middle of nowhere, you're passing homes and things like that. And all of a sudden you're coming up on this facility where these, from what I see on Google Images, there's these two giant doorways that go into the mountain. And are you saying that that's where you backed into?
I backed into the very first one. But you know what was so, you want to know something about that, Tony?
Of course.
That road that would take you down to the main archways, that's what they call them, the archways. You can't see what's going on from Route 16. That's the route that goes in front of it. But what like you were saying, it's out in the open. Okay, there's a freaking golf course right in front of it. You know what I mean? And Ski Liberty's right there. You know, I think it's Ski Liberty. It's one of the ski resorts. It's right there, right across the street. You know, and they got like a barbecue shack and stuff right there, you know, and it's right out in the open. I mean, if you didn't, you could drive, if you weren't from that area, you could drive past that place and just say, oh, look at the mountain. It's a military base, the whole mountain.
Yes.
The whole mountain, you know, and you can't see the roads or the archways from the road. They cut the road to where when I would pull up, you're a truck driver.
Yep.
When I would pull up, I'd have to blindside in. Not really, and it really wasn't a hard blindside. It was just you know, I'd pull up and I would just angle my truck at a 45, and I'd back into the archway, and I'd go back about 50 feet. And then I can go either to the left or to the right to dock. But when you're looking back, you can't see none of Carroll Valley. That's the name of the valley that's it. It's called Carroll Valley. You can't see none of it. They have it graded to where it camouflages what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's going on at ground level, it's camouflaged.
You know, and when you look at this on like Google Maps, which I'm doing right now, I'm looking at it on Google Maps, I've always thought that it seemed like there was if there was a territory, like a line that marks the area they cover, it's almost like there's a circle going around the area, and it's this road, obviously. But when you zoom out, you look at it from the sky. There's a very clear like circle going around this area where Raven Rock is, and that's, for me, outside looking in, I'm like, that looks like the boundaries, the territories of the area that they're covering. And on the surface, to be honest with you, it's not that big on the surface. I mean, we're probably talking about maybe half a mile or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it goes deep. It goes 5 levels deep, and I think the deeper you go, the weirder it gets, man. I think the weirder it gets.
No, Tony, I think it goes the whole length of that mountain. There's only certain access points up it. When I would turn in off, I believe it's called Harball's Road. Does that come up on Google Maps? Harball.
Yeah, Harball Valley.
Harball Valley Road. Okay, you go back Harball Valley Road, and then you make a left, probably about 100 yards back into there, and that's where you enter at. And then you'll see.
Yeah.
Then you'll see like the little garage area. That's the check-in point. That's where you check in at, and then you go in. That's how you make your entrance into Raven Rock.
Yeah, when I stumbled across Raven Rock, I didn't know about it, and I must have been bored or something, and I was on Google Maps, and I just saw these 2 giant doorways going into the ground. I was like, "What the heck is this?" And then that's when I started doing my looking into it and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking at this right now, and I've gone on the street image, like where you go to ground level on Google Maps and look at the street view, and you can see exactly what you're just describing about the entrance, but you can't go up there. Like, you can tell that the Google Maps car, whatever it is, kind of drove by, but they weren't allowed up there. Obviously, it's
Right.
It's private property. But from what I understand, so like, I'm a nosy person. I'm a snoopy person. I like snooping around, especially if it's convenient for me as far as location. And this is obviously not that far from me. I was told, though, that when you start driving around this area, even
you will be confronted.
Yeah, even the locals know if you're not from that area and you don't belong there, and they'll even confront you, even the locals, from what I understand.
You will be confronted, and I'll tell you why. I ran into some kids down there. We went down. I took my son snowboarding down there the one time, and I was telling them that they were a group of teenagers. And I said, over there on that mountain over there is a military base. And they said, yeah, we were on the other side of it, riding our 4-wheelers, and the military police came out and chased us all. They were going to put us in handcuffs and stuff. I guess that they were using that as I guess it was like access roads. I don't know. I never really looked at the Google search or the Google Maps of it. I guess there's service roads on the other side, but on the other side is Camp David. I don't know if people realize that, or if the locals realize that, but that's Camp David on the other side. That's all military control, that whole area.
So what you're saying, though, is that Site R is connected to Camp David underground.
You know what? I would say so. I would say so. Because there's no, like you said, there's very few access points. Okay, they can't land Marine Corps 1 on the side of that mountain. They have to land at Camp David. Okay, Camp David's only a mile or 2 away from there, on the Maryland side, because that mountain there, actually, Route 16 that goes Emmitsburg Road, that's the state line. So Raven Rock is basically in Maryland, and then Camp David's on the other side of that mountain.
And what's interesting is Raven Rock is very much part of like the Michoud State Forest. Like it's right there. And it makes me wonder some of the things that I think it's Michoud State Forest.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, like, it just makes me wonder as far as what's going on in that forest.
There's a lot of Bigfoot sightings.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. That's where I was going with this. Like, there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings in Michaux State Forest, and it's not
a lot.
It's not like a huge, like, it's obviously it's a big forest, but it's not necessarily. It's not like the Allegheny National Forest. Like, it's not that size, but there's a lot of activity, and it makes me wonder if it's because of what's going on there militarily.
I think if I ain't mistaken, I think there's some people that are missing from down that way, like real recently, that have not been found.
From the Raven Rock area?
No, from the forest.
Really?
Yes, I think it was in the last year or two that they've been that they were missing and they were never found. There's a lot of strange things that happens in that area. A lot.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lady on our show not too long ago, and she was telling her Bigfoot experiences, and she's not far from Raven Rock. I mean, like, man, I'm telling you, like, I can't remember the exact location where she's at, but she's not far from Raven Rock, and her Bigfoot experiences at her mom's house are ongoing to this day, almost daily, and it's very otherworldly on what she's going through at her house or at her mom's house. She doesn't live there anymore, but it just, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in that area. It's not far from Gettysburg, which is incredibly haunted, and so it's a very odd area.
Gettysburg's only about 10 miles up the road from there. And you know what's so fascinating about that area? That's all limestone based. That whole area there is limestone underneath there.
So what do you think that means, though?
That there's a lot. I think that there's a lot of like underground aquifers and stuff, and for some reason, I think that the paranormal have a lot of it's a higher activity in that area. Well, Gettysburg is just insanely haunted.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff. I mean, absolutely, lots of different stories coming out there. Lots of videos, pictures, and stuff of hauntings. Tons of stuff in Gettysburg. I mean, it was the most deadly battle of the Civil War. I mean, a lot of people died there. A lot.
Yep. And well, the one time I was going down to Site R. I had to stop and water my tire. Wouldn't you know, when I got there, they wanted to know why I stopped, what my reason was. They told me exactly how long I stopped for, everything.
Okay, so before you go any further with that, I want to know, how far were you from the facility when you stopped to water your tire, which means, people, if you don't know, it means pissing on your tire. But also, so how far were you? And do you think that this means that they were able to track you by maybe GPS on your truck? I mean, did you have a electronic log?
I think they had something inside the trailer. I never seen what I was hauling down there. I had no manifest, no bills of lading, no nothing. It was a bolt seal, and it was locked. It had one of those. It was a bolt seal, and it had a metal plate with a lock on the bottom of it.
So you didn't have an Old Dominion trailer pulling in there, though?
No.
All right.
My trailer was plain white with red lettering.
What did the red lettering say?
It said GV. It was either like a GV13, GV15, GV9, 09. It was GV. It was, and that's all it said. That's
okay.
It had it on the front. It had it on the back. It had government plates.
Let me ask you. So, with that said, do you think that the trailer was the trailer owned then by the complex?
I think. Well, I picked up at Aberdeen Improvement Grounds. So I went from military base to Old Dominion to military base, and then back to Old Dominion to military base. I never went to any other places with that trailer. That trailer was used. It went from Raven Rock to Old Dominion. The next day, I'd take that same trailer from Old Dominion to Aberdeen. I'd pick up the loaded trailer in Aberdeen. They would give me like a printout piece of paper. It would say, okay, pick up trailer GV09 in spot 132, lot A. Okay, and I'd go over and I'd pick it up. I'd make sure that, and then it had a seal number on the back. I could read the seal number. I'd read the seal number, and that's all I had. I didn't have no bill of lading, no nothing. I didn't know what I was hauling, nothing. I even hauled dead bodies. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think you were hauling dead bodies because
no, I'm just saying
they're not going to contract Old Dominion to haul dead bodies. Like I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, I'm in the LTL industry. If you drive for Old Dominion, or at least you used to, then you know the company I drive for. It's Pitt, Ohio. I mean, our terminal is
right
in Harrisburg. We have one in Harrisburg, and so like we're LTL carriers, which means we're general freight carriers. So the fact that your company's being contracted to haul stuff into Raven Rock, it must have been something for maybe construction or some kind of like contractors that were going on inside Raven Rock.
No, it fell under the contracting of Menlo. You know what Menlo is?
No.
Menlo is a contractor out of the New Cumberland Army Depot. It was like a supply point.
So
their supply, but it fell under that that contracting facility was Menlo.
So you're telling me that you were probably hauling stuff for military to military, and it was probably military supplies.
Yeah, I think I could have been hauling like MREs or water or boiler cleaner.
So all right. So here's the thing, though. Like, I don't understand why they would contract Old Dominion to do something like that, because like it's not that hard to have a military personnel trained to drive a truck and have your own truck out on the road pulling the stuff back and forth. I don't understand why they would do that.
I know. I don't know. But yeah, that's
wow.
I did it for 4 years, and here they lost the contract. Old Dominion lost the contract, and shortly after they lost the contract, I was fired.
You were fired from Old Dominion?
Yeah.
What was the reasoning?
I questioned my terminal manager's ethics.
Well, okay. But I'm laughing because it's funny, because it's like the same story everywhere you go in the trucking industry.
well, what he said was, him and I were having a discussion, and it really wasn't a heated discussion. It was, we were having a back and forth conversation, and he said, "What are you doing? Are you questioning my ethics?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I guess I am." And he said, "You're fired." Plain and simple. That's how it went down. And I was like, "Okay, see you later." I went and collected unemployment.
Wow. So you worked there for 4 years. How
No, I worked there for 8 years.
Oh, but you did the Raven Rock for 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you working at Old Dominion before they pulled you into the office?
4 years.
Okay. So you were there for 4 years. You get pulled into the office by, I'm assuming they're TM and these two other guys that worked for Raven Rock, right?
Yes.
Now, these two other guys that worked for Raven Rock, were they, talk to me about them. What did they look like? Were they in military gear? Were they civilian?
No, they were civilian. They just looked like, they were dressed in, polo shirts, they had like like where they were from on their shirt. I think it might have been like, the Raven Rock has their own shirts. Okay. And I guess it would say Site R on it. think they go by Raven. I don't think they're because you can buy shirts right there.
Like a gift shop?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, really?
Yes, you can buy a shirt there. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the security guards had them and stuff. Yeah, they had like Site R, and I don't know what the insignia was. I guess it was like almost like a Pentagon symbol, you know. But yeah, they had a gift shop there. They had mugs. You know, I mean, they're on one aspect they're out in the open about it, and on the other aspect they want to keep it secret. You know, and it comes up on the map, and people know about it, and you know you can Google search, it comes up Site R, you know, Raven Rock, and it gives you the location and everything. You know, and you know you can buy the stuff right there. Right, that was part of the commissary.
So let me ask you then: is this something that you could have bought? Like you could have walked out of there with the?
I don't think I could have bought it.
Okay, so we're talking about like, you know, hey, I need another shirt for work kind of thing. You can buy it at the gift shop. Gotcha.
Or you know, they probably issue you a certain amount of money that you can buy work clothes with, and you can go into this like shop and, you know, get like a polo shirt or a dress shirt with the Site R and the insignia on it and stuff. But yeah, they had them right there. Yeah. Because they wouldn't accept money. I never spent not a red penny in there. Your money is no good in that place. Like all the food that I ate was on the house. You know, I probably drank 1,000 gallons of Diet Pepsi in there. I never paid a dime for it. You know
what's interesting is that I'm looking at and I don't know if this is their emblem or their logo. It's a circle with Raven Rock Mountain Complex on it. Underneath it, it says Site R with a raven on it. And
that's it.
Okay, so I'm looking at this logo, and I swear I've seen this before, this logo, and I'm hesitant to say it just because I literally have stalked Raven Rock online so much that I might have come across that image before, and it's just coming back to me subliminally. But it seems like I've seen this before. I feel like I've seen it on somebody's shirt before or something like that. I don't know though.
They're very out in the open about it, but they want to remain secret too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where the location that they put it's very, you know, rural in the sense, but at the same time there is still a lot of stuff not far from there, and maybe over time, like in the early days, maybe the word got out, and so there was no keeping it a secret, but they just kind of dampened it down with how much they're willing to, you know, like I mean, if you look at the complex,
I think what you're trying to do is like making an inactive base. You know what I mean?
Did you say active or inactive?
Inactive. An inactive
Gotcha.
base, we ain't doing much here. You know, almost like Area 51. Oh, there's nothing to see here. You know, we really don't do much here. But in reality, they're pumping strong.
Yeah, well, there's definitely now Raven Rock is definitely an underground military. Like literally, if you just go on Google Images or Google Maps and you just type in Raven Rock Military Base, it's gonna come up. You just do a quick slide around. You find the doors that go into the mountain. Literally, it's by definition an underground military base.
Yep.
And so, but I have been told that there are at least 2 underground military bases in Pennsylvania. I believe the second one is actually in or around the Allegheny National Forest. I have not been able to find the location of that one. And I think that one actually has a lot more nefarious things going on than the one that we're talking about today. All right, let's take a break right now and talk to you about this week's sponsor, which is BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp. Is there something in your life that's making you unhappy, preventing you from being happy? Is there something that's preventing you from achieving your goals? Well, I think a lot of people are answering yes to that because of the current climate in this world with the pandemic that we're going through right now. But there are some people who are actually going through it even harder. And maybe you're facing some depression. Maybe you're realizing that whatever you're going through right now is actually a little bit more serious than things that you've faced in the past. You're finding yourself in a dark spot. Well, let me tell you something. BetterHelp is a great way for you to get help from your home without being inconvenienced or being too vulnerable. I know there's a lot of people out there that are hesitant to go and see a therapist because they don't want to go to somebody they don't know and face them right there in their office in person and deal with having to get comfortable and vulnerable with somebody in person. Well, BetterHelp is an online service and you can start communicating with somebody in under 24 hours. BetterHelp will access your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. This is not a crisis line. This is not a self-help line. It's professional counseling done securely online. Listen, BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today, which is why they're more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and they offer financial aid. So if you need that, that's available for you as well. Visit betterhelp.com/confessionals. That's better, HELP, and join over 800,000 people making change to their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. And there's a special offer for the Confessionals listeners, which you get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/confessionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message. I love you. Now, back to our show.
All right, so you freaking worked there for how many years was it?
4 years.
4 years. Okay, so you were at Old Dominion for 4 years. You got brought into this thing. And then you were fired shortly after that. But I want to say it seems like you were handpicked. Do you think that this was?
I absolutely.
Do you think that they handpicked you, or do you think your terminal handpicked you?
No. My military status handpicked me.
Oh, so you're military?
Yes.
How much military are we talking about here?
Well, my MOS was 11 Bravo 10 Victor.
Talk to me like I'm not in the military.
U.S. Army Ranger.
Okay, gotcha. So you were an Army Ranger, man?
Yes.
Dude, you guys are some bad MFers, man. I'll tell you that.
I was nothing special. I was just a rifleman well, actually, I was in a what they call a weapons platoon. I was part of headquarters company, and I was in charge of setting up the headspace at time 50 caliber, and the weaponry that we would take along with us, like the claymore mines and stuff like that. We were all assigned to the platoons and stuff, and I never seen no combat or anything. I was in during the Cold War, but yeah, my security clearance carry it. You never lose your security clearance unless you you get chaptered out of the Army, or you go to Leavenworth or whatever. But here's a good one, Tony. Thursday this week. Now I work for another trucking company now. I went down to Leonard County Army Depot. Okay, and where I went at in Leonard County Army Depot, you have to you have to give your social security number and your license and stuff. Then they run a background check on you. Well, they gave me a pass. All I have to do is show the pass to the guard, and I can gain access to wherever I need to go in Leonard County. And that's where the Patriot missiles and the TOW missiles and stuff are built.
Wow.
And that's where I was. That's where I was Thursday. I was delivering paint.
Jeez. So this is starting to make sense now. So for whatever reason, outside of your control, Raven Rock, for whatever reason, needed to hire an outside contractor to.
They investigated me.
And so, yeah, well, they investigated a lot of people if you think about it, because if they handpicked you, which means that probably Old Dominion was not the only company they looked at. They were looking for a very specific type of driver that they were going to be able to contract into this location. And you were the guy who popped up.
Yes, because I'm still accountable by the UCMJ for anything. If I would talk about anything where I went when I was in the military, I could still be court-martialed.
Ooh, do you want to talk about it now? I'm just kidding.
No, I can't.
I understand.
I never did nothing too extreme. Okay, everything that you did in the Ranger Battalion was extreme, but it was nothing, nothing that would be off the radar. It was just normal operating business for us. I was actually just a corporal, and I did 6 years and I left. And then my military status never left me. And whenever, like you said, they investigated me personally. These people, whoever these guys were, they probably went to YRC, ABF, Pitt, Ohio, Old Dominion. Then they stumbled across Merle. Oh, hey Merle, this is what you're going to do for the next 4 years.
Yeah, look what we have here.
Yeah, and my military status was never brought up. Nothing. They never mentioned anything to me. These two individuals, they never said not one word to me about anything. They just said, this is what you're doing. This is your route. Like, I would go down. Now where Old Dominion is, it's in Carlisle. It is at exit 52 on 81. I would drive down 81 to exit 5. I get off exit 5, which is Route 16. I go up over the mountain, down over the mountain, the Harball Valley Road. I'd make that right. I'd make that immediate left, and I was there. That was my route. When I left, I went back the same way.
Wow. Yeah, man, this is interesting stuff, man. Like I've been longing for the day to talk to anybody that has like a real connection there. And you didn't even work there. You were just contracted, but the information you shared with us has been really interesting. Now, you worked there a year into your relationship with Thom. You is when you got that chicken broth brew, right?
Yeah, and you know what? It was chicken broth, but it was a real strong chicken broth. You know what I mean? It was almost
like it was artificially flavored to be chicken broth, but it was something else. Maybe you ever think about that?
Well, let's put it to you this way. It was, how chicken broth is like a light brown.
Yeah.
Okay. This was brown, real, almost like a real thick chicken broth. Almost like you took 4 packages of chicken broth and mixed it all in one cup.
I got you.
It was real thick, and it did, and I'm telling you, within 5 minutes, I was out like a light. I don't remember nothing. I mean, I don't remember nothing. I don't remember nobody putting blankets on me, a pillow under my head, nothing. And when I woke up, I'm telling you, I was sick all weekend. I mean, I was throwing up. I didn't know if I was going to be able to go to work. Well, I went to work, and my armed guard seen that I was sick, and I threw up. And he must have went and told Thom, and Thom brought me this chicken broth. And I'm telling you, I woke up at 4:00 Tuesday afternoon, and I did not go to bed until it was Saturday morning, about 12 o'clock Saturday morning. And I wasn't tired then. I had to force myself to sleep because I knew I was up for 3.5 days.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. So I personally, when you're telling me about this chicken broth stuff, like I'm thinking, man, this is flavored to taste like chicken broth and make you feel like it's chicken broth. But dude, chicken broth doesn't keep you awake for 3 days after putting you to sleep for a few hours. I mean, like this is something that got in your system that was not chicken broth.
Right. But it didn't make me jittery or anything. It was just, I just was not tired. I couldn't sleep. Trust me, I came up late in bed and I just laid there, my eyes wide open. I said, I'm fighting a losing battle. So I just went downstairs, watched TV, I played video games. This went on for 3 days and I wasn't tired.
Jeez.
I didn't even yawn in those 3 days, 3.5 days. I had to force myself to go to sleep on Friday night. My wife was like, are you ever coming to bed? I said, I ain't tired.
All right. So here's the thing. I want to talk to you about the fact that your wife saw his face when he looked like a praying mantis or, a lizard person, whatever you want to say it is.
Yeah.
Your wife literally saw the transformation as well.
She saw what she said was an icy stare.
But what you describe isn't just an icy stare. He literally looked different, right?
To me, he did. Yes. She really wasn't. I mean, she was paying attention to my son, and she really wasn't paying attention to what the communication between Thom and myself. But she seen Thom looking at me. And she just said, he gave you an icy stare. And I was like, yeah, that was Thom. I said, he works at Raven Rock. And, and I went on to tell her, and I never told her that his features changed. Because he didn't look that way. He didn't look that way for a year. Okay. For a year or how many months, year and a half, however long it wasn't that long into my tenure there. Okay. I never seen that. But that one time where I waved at him out in public, it almost like he was a shapeshifter. It changed. It changed in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
In a matter of seconds. He had like dark blue eyes. He had like light hair, not blonde hair, but light hair. And it was like, his hair was like real fine. You know what I mean by fine?
Yeah. Like it's like a real thin hair.
Yeah. Like a real thin hair, but he always kept it real, neatly manicured, up to hind tight, what they refer to as a hind tight, but he had like dark blue eyes. And when he turned and looked at me, I swear to God, I was looking at a praying mantis. I never thought that until that time, and I never thought that afterwards. You know what I mean? It was just that time. It was just in that point in time, in that 25 seconds.
Jeez. Let me tell you something about this. So
what's that?
The name Thom, I just looked it up and to see what Thom means. I don't remember ever hearing this name before, so I'm assuming it's spelled Thom, Thom.
Yes.
Okay, so it is. So the name Thom is Aramaic and it means twin. Twin. And you're telling me that Thom literally
I never knew that.
Thom is shape shifting in front of you and he has 2 different faces. Like it's 2 different people with the same DNA. Like, dude, I'm telling you, this is crazy.
I can't make this stuff up, man. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. You're doing all the research and everything's adding up for it.
Listen, man, like I'm sitting here and I'm just very interested in your story, and I'm thinking, what does the name Thom mean? Because I was sitting here thinking Thom actually, like if I was writing a science fiction story where we are doing I was making up a story about somebody that did a 20 and back and the United States military is working with aliens on the dark side of the moon, what would I name one of the aliens that were a praying mantis? Well, Thom actually sounds like a name I would use, like General Thom. He's a praying mantis, lizard person. And so I look up the name Thom to see, where it originated from. And it says it freaking means twin. I'm just like, and here's this guy being a shape-shifting person with 2 faces as one person to you. It's just, I just think that's interesting.
Yeah. And Tony, it never happened before or after this 25 seconds of us being out in public and me acknowledging him.
Yeah.
That was the only time that I looked at him as utterly human. If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense and stuff. And it seems like what you're saying is that, these are your experiences with your interactions with people at the base and being there for the period of time that you were. And what's interesting is, like, we just had an hour conversation about this base and your interactions with it, and you barely did anything there. Like you hardly had anything to do there other than drive. I'm just driving my truck, backing it in and sitting around waiting until they tell me I can go home. That's pretty much what you were doing. And we just covered an hour. And so I just find it funny. Now, let me ask you one more question about this. And this is more of an opinion piece for you, but how the heck do you think Thom knew that you talked to your wife when you were I think you said you were around Shippensburg when you finally started talking to her about Thom?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I want to say that he just guessed, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think that he just assumed that I discussed it with my wife and went out on the limb and said, "Don't you ever talk to your wife about this?" But it almost like he had firsthand knowledge that I talked to her. Almost like he was reading my mind.
And that's,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Like, because my first thought was he able to listen in on you? Did he have something planned, or was he able to tell?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. He couldn't have, because I hit a deer with my truck going to work at that week, and I had a rental car from Bobby Rahal Toyota, or a rental truck. So I had a completely different vehicle I took down there that day.
Can I ask you a question about the rental vehicle?
Yeah.
Did the license plate say Raven Rock on it? No, just kidding.
No.
Yeah.
But all the security were Pentagon police. They're
Okay.
Raven Rock.
Yeah. So I mean, Raven Rock is clearly an active base, and it has high level security, and many people throughout the government, deep in the government, are working there or have been there. Do you think that? Let me ask you this too: how long ago was this taking place? I mean, are we talking about 20 years ago, 10 years ago? What?
Well, I got fired in 2010, so this was, or no, I got fired in 2009. So this was from 05 to 2009.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that's
11 years.
Right, and that's not that long ago. I mean, we're talking about 11 years ago, and I'm telling you, man, this thing is just a fascinating thing for me, and it's probably more fascinating for me for the fact that it's in my backyard, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I literally can drive there within 2 hours easily.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't drive up to it though.
Well, I almost did, to be honest with you. I almost did when I first found it. I was like, I'm very interested. And I, like I said, I went on the Google Images and I saw it was gated off on the road. I went to both sides of the road. I looked at this place, inside and out. And I almost went out there and did the whole drive up to it and see how far I can get to it, kind of thing, or see if I can find a side road that I can kind of hike up onto the mountain and all that stuff. Like I was really considering doing it. And then I forget who I was talking to, but they told me that, you can't get anywhere near the place, and that even locals will kind of look at you sideways.
Well, just for your listeners and everything, we discussed the road and the entrance point. If anyone decides to go there and try to go up to the entrance, you will end up at gunpoint. I guarantee you that.
Well, it'll give you some stories to tell, right?
And you will probably be in prison.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
Because they're not going to say, "Oh, I just got lost," because there are signs there that say U.S. military, U.S. government property, keep out.
Yeah, especially when you got a guy named Thom in there that can read people's minds. There's no lying, you know. like,
and the shapeshifter.
yeah, you're like, I got lost, and they get on the radio. All right, bring Thom out here. We need to have Thom out here. So, and
Next thing you know, he appears.
Yeah, I mean, and if you went out there,
cat.
I'm telling you right now. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He was a strange cat. He really was. When I look back on it and everything, he was a very nice guy. But like I said, he always had that bottle of water. I never seen him drink or eat. That was my point to that. And he always like shook it at you, to where he was making conversation with the bottle of water.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe that bottle of water was a prop, and he didn't need to eat because he wasn't human.
That's what I was thinking. Because he had a bottle of water at the wrestling tournament. The same bottle of water was an Aquafina bottle of water.
He's like, look, I got a bottle of water. I drink. I eat. I'm human.
Right. And I never seen him drink from it or eat or anything in 4 years. And I'm telling you, that's where I would be for 8 hours a day, was in either the cafeteria or right off the cafeteria in the lounge area. It was a relaxing setting. It wasn't like you didn't have military people marching around and everything. People would come in and eat, and conversation, and they'd come in and watch TV and then head on down to work. It was a very relaxing place. And, and they had 5 or 6 couches in there. It was a big room. And Thom would come in and he would talk baseball. And he did know baseball, I'll tell you that. He knew every batting average of every Major League Baseball player playing in the major leagues that year or those years. He was very, very smart.
You know why? Because when you live for 1,000 years and you have access to time travel, you tend to be pretty smart. I'm telling you, he's not human, man.
I don't know what he is, man. I'm going to be honest with you. Now that you say that Thom is definitionist twin, I don't know how many I dealt with. You know what I mean?
Dude, man.
Why was he there? He didn't have a kid at this wrestling tournament. He was just there. He didn't move all day. There was 4 mats, in this gymnasium. And he was in the center of these 4 mats. And he did not move all day. There was no kids around. He had no wife, no nothing. I was watching him all day. And I knew he'd see me. I knew he did. I know he did. I know he's seen me. I seen him as soon as I walked in the gym. He stands out. You know what I mean? He's 6'8".
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All he had to do is reach his what is it? Praying man's arm up and dunk the basketball.
Yeah, I mean, if he's if he's freaking 6'8", and that's a big guy.
He was tall. He was tall. I know he didn't weigh 170 pounds. If he weighed that.
So he was tall and lanky. I was thinking somebody that's bulky and kind of gigantic.
No. He was tall and he was bone thin. Bone thin.
Wow.
Like you could see his cheekbones. That's why I was saying that when his face changed to a praying mantis looking style face, you can see his cheekbones. That's why I'm saying that his face didn't look the same when he turned and looked at me. His face changed. He wasn't like a big guy. This guy was real thin. He only weighed about 170 pounds. But his face changed in those 25 seconds. I don't know if it was my eyes playing tricks on me, or I don't know what happened, but it was a very strange encounter. Very strange encounter. And I don't get the heebie-jeebies much, but that guy gave me the heebie-jeebies at that time.
Yeah, it's
I didn't know
understandable.
what I was dealing with.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely seems like he would give people the heebie-jeebs, especially like I don't know what's more creepy, a 6'8" bulky guy that's a 6'8", 6'8" guy that's a lizard person, or a 6'8" guy that's lanky lizard person. I'm not sure what's more creepy, but
No, he wasn't very big. He didn't have much muscle tone to him.
all right, so we talked about the d.u.m.b.s, and I think that we exhausted the topic right now as far as what what you've experienced. But you do have some paranormal experiences that you'd like to share with us. So if you could just kind of start us off and walk us into some of these experiences you've had.
Well, I'm gonna go from first to last with these.
That's fine.
Okay, back in last August, I was at my girlfriend's house. She lives in an apartment on her parents' property above her dad's garage. Her dad's a big gearhead, and he has a three bay garage detached from the house, and there's an apartment above the garage. We were going to go to the races that night, so we took her son over to her mom and dad's house, which is just right across the driveway. We went up, and we were sitting at, I guess it's like a bar style breakfast nook. Okay, and I was facing into the house, and she was facing towards her mom and dad, towards the outside of the house. Okay, and I'm sitting there, and I see movement down the hallway, like a shadow, and I just blew it off. And then we're sitting there talking. Now this is only a matter of a minute or two. I seen it again, and I said to her, I said, Katie, I said, are we alone? She goes, yeah, why? I said, I just thought I'd seen something. The third time I seen it, it went in to her bedroom. It was a shadow. Went into the bedroom. And I'm only looking I went down into my truck and got my gun out, and I tactically cleared this house. That's how convinced I was that I seen somebody in this, or a shadow in this house. I thought it was her ex-boyfriend. That's what I thought. Well, and she was freaked out by this, because obviously I have this 9mm, and I'm going through each room and looking under the beds, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm telling you, I've seen somebody. And then I let it go after that, because there was nobody there. Well, the next day I said to her dad, I said, DH, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, did you own this house? How long have you owned this house? He goes, well, I bought it about 10 years ago. The guy that lived here died. I said, well, where'd he die at? He goes, well, he fell down the ladder there in the garage. And I said, oh. He goes, why do you ask? I said, because I seen some shadows yesterday. He goes, don't tell Katie. I said, well, it's kind of hard not to tell her when I have my gun going through her house. He tactically clearing her house. And he says, well, don't tell her what I just said. So we can debunk that as just, and I had a friend, his name's Alan. He does ghost walks. And the one day I was over babysitting Katie's son, and he told me to tell whatever's there that it's all right if you hang out here, but you cannot cause harm to the people that live here. If you do cause harm, you're going to have to leave. And that squashed it. Just no more. We didn't see, but I'm telling you, Tony, I've seen the shadow 3 times in 5 minutes. I know there was something there. I know for sure that I seen it the third time. I know for sure I seen it going into her bedroom, and that's right where the steps were, and leaned down to the garage. They're blocked off now. They made an apartment out of the top half. Now, that was the paranormal experience. Now, I heard you talk about this about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago on your show. Do you know where Street Road is? Off of Easton Road, 611?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. Street Road, you go down Street Road to 263, there's a Giant store sitting there, right? I was working for Giant food stores. Now, right there, that's called Willingham or Wellington. It's one of the two because they're really close. Willingham is up either on 611 and Wellington's down on Street Road. Well, I'm sitting there. We ain't allowed behind that store until 7 o'clock, okay, because of noise restrictions. So I'm sitting between. There's a Kohl's store and the Giant. It's 6:34, December 23rd, 2019. It was a Monday. I'm just sitting there. I'm just waiting to go behind this store. And I'm telling you, Tony, 400 feet off the ground, there was a flying, people would call it a V. I call it more of a check mark because the right side was a little bit longer than the left. And it was just flying right down towards Willow Grove. Didn't make a sound. What I think it was a drone. It was unmanned. It couldn't have been manned. There's no way it could have been manned. I think it was a drone. A big drone.
Wow.
Like a 200-foot big drone.
All right, so let's just pause for a second and just inform any audience that, because I know what you're referencing, and you're referencing this because you're recalling something exactly to what I saw in the same area. That's why you're telling me this, right?
Yes. And it was heading right towards Willow Grove. And I'm telling you right now, there is something going on in Willow Grove because there's cars. They say that's a dead military base. There's activity going on in there.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're bringing this up. The Horsham Air Force Base is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And
Willow Grove. Yes.
Right off of 611. And I know exactly where the Giant food store is. You're talking about the intersection of Street Road and 263.
263 and Street Road.
Yep, I know exactly where you're talking about. It's not far from Willow Grove.
Because there's a Kohl's store there.
Yep.
And there's an access point, then the Giant store, and that's where we had to entrance the Giant stores on that access road. And that's where I was sitting. It was 6:34 in the morning, just right as soon the sun was just coming up. It was in December 23rd. It was 2 days before Christmas. Okay, so the sun's just coming up at 6:30 in the morning. You can see the pink in the sky. And I've seen this thing. There was no lights on this thing. None whatsoever.
Okay, so this thing that you saw in the sky, the fact that you're saying it was a drone, you definitely got a better look than I did because I was driving down 276 when I saw it outside of Willow Grove, and I think I've seen it at least either two or three other times. It wasn't just one time I saw this thing.
I watched it for 30 seconds.
And was it hovering or was it moving or what?
No, it was moving. It was moving at about 15 miles an hour.
Okay.
I caught it when it was just about over 263, and it was heading towards County Line Road. If you know what I mean. You know where County Line Road is?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Okay. It was heading and it crossed right over the Giant store, heading towards County Line Road. And if you draw a straight line from the Giant store to the corner of County Line Road and Easton Road, that would put you in the middle of Horsham Air Force Base, right dead smack in the middle.
Wow.
And it was only 400 feet in the air. I got a real good look at it. I could see the tiles on it.
Hold on a second. So it had tires on it?
Tiles.
Oh, tiles. I got you.
Yes, tiles. And there was no lights or nothing. I watched it for 30 seconds. It was a drone. I guarantee it was a drone. It wasn't. There was no one controlling. I mean, it was being controlled, but there was no one manually controlling that from the inside of it. And I don't understand why they'd be doing that. I don't know what their purpose. I don't know. Do you think they could be setting off chemtrails with that?
Man, chemtrails would be like the last thing that on my mind to even consider when it comes to this. When we're talking about what we're talking about here, we're talking about something, and I'm assuming that you saw what I saw, but it
was a check mark.
Yeah, it was a check mark. Thank you. It wasn't a V. And like this is what I said on my show when I first saw this, and I talked to the public about it. I said at first it looked like a V, but when I got next to it and I was passing by, I look up. It was hovering. It was a check mark. One side was shorter than the other. That's what you saw.
Yeah,
we saw the same exact thing.
It was like. No, I really can't tell. Because it was against the dark sky, okay. Now, when I say the sun was just coming up, the sun was just coming up out of the east. This was basically right above me, okay. So let's say it was 200 or 100, 150 feet in width, okay. The right side was 100 feet. And the left side was 50 feet or 75 feet.
Listen,
the
man,
right side was definitely longer. The right side was definitely longer than the left side.
This is incredible because I never would have expected that I was going to be talking to somebody today that saw the same exact craft that I saw. Like, this isn't like, oh yeah, I saw something like that too in New Mexico. You saw exactly what I saw within a couple mile radius of where I was.
Probably 3 miles.
And
if you saw it on the turnpike, it was within 3 miles because Street Road runs right down to Park Casinos.
That's unbelievable.
Ain't that right?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Absolutely.
Street Road run down to Park Casinos?
Yep. If you keep going down Street Road, it takes you into Ben Salem. On the left hand side is Park Casinos. Absolutely.
Yeah. And this was up Street Road at 263 or 260. Is it 263 or 261?
263.
Right there on the corner. You know where I'm talking about.
Absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's why I'm floored right now. Like I'm not even in the mindset right now to ask questions because I'm just floored that you saw the same thing I saw. I'm like so excited that somebody's validating me right now because I had no idea you were going to bring this up.
I'm telling you, and I know for a fact it was a drone. I know people say, oh, drones can't be that big. Who says it can't be that big?
Yeah, that's just BS.
Right. It's definitely a drone. Like I said, I sent you a text message. I can validate 2 of the 3, which I just did. I just validated it because I'm telling you it wasn't. I'm not saying this was a UFO, but it was a UFO because I don't know what it was, but it wasn't out of this worldly.
Yeah.
It was definitely man-made.
Absolutely.
And it's a drone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The fact that you're saying it's a drone, now looking back at what I saw, it makes sense that it would be a drone. I've mentioned it before. I think it was on the show that I did called the Ben Salem Abduction, where I talked to, I'm forgetting her name, but she had a great story, but I talked to her about this as well, and we discussed about the Horsham Air Force Base. I've been on that base a couple of times, and the very first time I was on that base, I was working for a different company. I wasn't with Pitt, Ohio, and I was actually working for a copy machine company called Rico, and we were pulling copy machines out of some of these buildings that they were moving out of. And I remember asking them that if they were shutting the place down, and they really beat around the bush as far as to what they were going to tell me. They said that, the place was being shut down and stuff, but just the way they said it was just very odd. And I didn't get this.
Then why do they have new dirt mounds there?
Well,
where you can't see stuff off the Eastern Road.
Yeah,
they just put new dirt mounds there.
How long ago?
Oh, within the last 6 months.
Jeez. See, I haven't driven up that area.
You know where the museum is?
Yeah.
Right there along Easton Road?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. When you get down past the museum, you have the Horsham Diner. If you look, and then you have that access road that would lead you on to Horsham Air Force Base. That stretch from the museum to the Horsham Diner, they just elevated the dirt mounds that are on there. Why would they elevate the dirt mounds? So you can't see what's going on from the roadway, even in a truck.
They used to do air shows out of there, and supposedly they shut the base down, all this stuff. And this was back when I was in my early 20s. I think Rico was my first truck driving job. And so when I did that, they tell me, okay, story back in my mind. Fast forward years later, I'm driving for Pitt, Ohio. I go on the base for another delivery, and I back into a dock, and I do this delivery, and there it was like a full cast of people working there, and I was just like, this place doesn't seem like it's shutting down anytime soon. Now, I know it could be, maybe something where it's not at full scale like it used to be, but
no, I think it is.
Yeah, it just seems like there's something going on there. I've said that before, and for me, it seems like there's something going on there. Then when you see what I saw not far from there, I mean, what's the other logical conclusion then? Like if I see it multiple times, you saw it, and there's been reports of this thing in Bensalem, the very similar thing. It's a V shape that it's been described, hovering over trees, moving over trees kind of thing. If everybody's seeing this thing in this general area, the logical conclusion is, well, where is it coming from? Probably the Horsham Air Force Base.
Well, see, the whole thing is, Tony, is you were driving when you saw it. I wasn't. I was looking right at it. I was like, that's how I could tell you the time and the day, because I made note of this. I was like, oh my God. And I'm thinking the whole time I'm looking at it, I rolled down my window, no, I didn't roll it down, I put it down. There ain't no rolling anymore. It's all electronics. But I put my window down to see if I could hear an exhaust. There was no exhaust. It was perfectly quiet, and it was almost like it was making its final round to go back home. It was going home, and believe it or not, that thing could glide right over top of any normal human being driving down the road, and you probably wouldn't even be able to see it. But I just so happen to look up a lot when I'm sitting.
Yeah, well, I've been looking up a lot too these days. So, but listen, man, I appreciate you sharing that with me, because for me personally, this is not even for the show. Like personally, it
a little bit of validation.
Yeah, big time. Like, because like I always tell people, like I haven't seen such crazy stuff. Like a lot of stuff that goes on in the show and stuff. I'm just hearing the stories. Like I haven't really seen a ton of crazy stuff. I mean, I've some, but not a ton. And like, that was for me a very fascinating experience. And I'm like, I'm going to tell people about this, but I'm not expecting anybody to believe me. And so the fact that you're validating me right now, it really makes me smile. So
now, Tony, this last one that I have to tell you, I have no explanation for it, man. None. I'm going to work. I work night shift. Okay. My shift begins at 11 o'clock. So I'm heading to work about 9:30. Beginning of January. It's not too far, not too long after New Year's. This all happened within a week, 2 weeks of me seeing this check mark and this next thing that happened to me. I'm driving down Wagner's Gap Road. Like I said, I live out in the rural area, rural part of the country here in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, we call it up here.
Yeah.
But I'm driving down the road, and 2 deer cross in front of me. Okay. Now it's Wagner's Gap. Now I have to go up over a mountain and down the mountain to get to work. It's the shortest way to my job. 2 deer cross in front of me, so I slowed down to so I don't hit them. and I have an old beater car that I drive back and forth to work, keep miles off my truck. It's a manual, so I was in fourth gear. So I went as soon as I put in first gear. Tony, about a dozen deer come over top my car, on my car, in front of my car. They were running from something, okay? And I was like, oh my God, and they were kicking my windows and riding up over my hood. That's just leading up to what happened to me. So I get out and I check damage, not much damage. So I drive on. I go about a mile, okay? And when you're going up Wagner's Gap, you have like a 90-degree turn to the right, okay? Well, I see this light in my driver's side window. Did you ever have like a reflection of like on your driver's side window to where it looks like there's something there, but it's really actually on the right side of you? Well, that's what caught my attention. I seen this like light blue light on my driver's side, window, and I looked, and nothing was there. So I look across, and there's this little, about the size of a softball, hovering ball right in this wood line. Okay, now I was at this 90-degree turn. Okay, so when I went past it the first time, it was on my right. When I went up around, I was looking at it the whole time. I went around the 90-degree turn, and it stayed on my right the whole time. So I stopped my car, and I got out, and I'm looking at this light, right? And I'm telling you, it's only about as big as a softball, and it was just hanging there, just like suspended in animation, right? And you could see, it would almost look like a lava light. Okay, the light inside of it. It wasn't like shining like a bright light or anything. It was just illuminating itself. Okay, and I'm looking at it, and what was so strange, do you know what ozone smells like?
I don't think so.
Ozone, like when during a thunderstorm, you smell like the air gets real energized. This when I got out of my car to look at this light, there was a lot of ozone in the air, and I was just looking at this light. Nothing actually happened. It was just there, and I thought to myself, this ain't. I thought, Merle, you ain't too damn smart. I got back in my car and I left, right? But that's the last time I seen it. But doesn't it seem kind of curious that these deer run in front of my car about a half a mile to a mile in front of it before I seen this light?
Yeah.
What was chasing? And not only that, Tony, but where they were running to. Okay, these two deer that crossed in front of me came from the right, which is Penn State Dickinson College. That's their property. You can't hunt on it, so they consider that a safe ground. Deer know this. Okay, and as soon as these deer crossed in front of me, I slowed down. 15 to 20 deer ran over there that way. What was making them go that way? When you got cornfields on the left and nothing on the right, because Dickinson College don't plant no corn or anything for them. It's just woods. When they got feed on the other side, open cornfields. Then I drive up the road and I see it wasn't very big. I could hold that ball in my hand, and it was only about 3 or 4 feet off the ground, and it was almost like it was dangling from a tree, or I don't know. It was pretty wild, though. That's something I can't explain. Now that's just I don't know. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. I didn't see Bigfoot or anything, but
listen, man. I find this.
Trust me, I was thinking that. I was like, because I literally got out of my car and I was like, I wanted to see what I was looking at. You know what I mean? I was like, am I seeing what am I seeing this? Because of what happened 2 weeks beforehand. I seen that check mark in the air, and I'm thinking, this is too much, man. I got to come back to reality.
Yeah.
And sometimes you question yourself, man. And this is out in the middle of nowhere. I'm telling you, there's a house probably half a mile to a mile away from there, but there's nothing that goes. There's very little traffic on this road, but I mean, almost anything can happen on this road.
It's interesting, the balls of light and stuff. Because I don't know what it is, and people see this stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea what it is, but the fact that you saw that within a 2-week period of seeing what you saw out my way, I find that interesting. It almost makes you feel like, you were marked or something.
Like I'm being stalked.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of weird, but listen, I think you are being stalked. I mean, dude, you got contracted to do the Raven Rock, and then you freaking see the check mark. Dude, listen, your experiences have been very interesting to hear, and it's been a pleasure talking to you about it, man.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it wasn't gonna be a very interesting interview. Just a truck driver delivering the Raven Rock.
Yeah, no.
Then you Google search Thom, and it's an evil twin.
Yeah, man. Like I'm telling you, man, it's interesting for sure. And it's funny, like people, they'll say things to me like that too. They'll be, well, I don't know if it's enough for a full interview. And I'm like, well, let's give it a shot and see what happens. So Thom, I just called you Thom.
I'm his twin.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I do appreciate coming on the show and sharing, man.
Okay. Yeah, Tony. Well, thank you for having me.
Well, that's the show, but I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, please share the show with your friends. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. We don't care where you share the show. Just share the show if you enjoyed it, because that's the best thing you can do to help the show grow. And until next week, friends, stay safe, take care, and remember, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. Bye. Hey, thanks for watching the Confessionals on YouTube. If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, and hit the like button. That would be a great help to me. And if you want more of the Confessionals on a weekly basis, every Thursday I come out with a special show just for members on my website. So if you want to check that out, go to theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the join button, and become a member today. And every Thursday, you'll get a new show, and you can binge on previous shows, which there's almost 100 of them. So if you love the show, go ahead and check it out. But thank you very much for being here on YouTube and checking out the channel.